What up, TCK Potters? I'm your host, Sky Guasco, joined always by my man, Lukas Kaser, and you are tuned into the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Candlestick Kids, leave a rate and review anywhere you're listening to your podcast, and follow us on IG at fantasyfootball_TCK Pod and on Twitter at TCK_pod. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into it. What up, TCK Potters? Welcome back to the program. Another episode of the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Sky and Lukas with you as always, episode 224. Today we are breaking down our quarterback stacks. We are each going to pick our favorite quarterback stack with a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end, maybe a couple guys in drafts that we would have in an ideal situation. Of course, some of them are kind of unrealistic, such as maybe the Chiefs with all those weapons, or stacking maybe Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas with Drew Brees. Both of those guys can be kind of tough, but we're going to talk through one. We're each going to pick our favorite stack per position. So we're going to have two teams. We break down per position and give a reason why we want to do that. Maybe it's based on ADP. Maybe it's straight up skill. Maybe it's that you can get a couple different players with that quarterback, which we want to pair up with them. So before we do that, let's bring in Lukas. Lukas, my man, how are you feeling?
Feeling good. I'm ready to what's the word? I don't know. I'm not like – I feel like stacking isn't like an actual strategy because I feel like in the end it's realistically just drafting players that is going to score the most points. I don't know. Like, do you find you're better? Like, your team is better if you stack? I don't know. I think it's a little like, I don't want to say overhyped, but I think it's like, don't waste too much time being like, I have to go get Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Tom Brady because like it's not – because the ADP ranges are like similar to what Mike Evans is, what DJ Moore will produce, et cetera. So I don't find a ton of value in it, but I think it's definitely viable.
It is not something that I generally go into a draft pursuing. It's like I don't go into a draft saying I got to have these guys and then I pick their quarterback. However, especially with the late round QB strategy, which just this works out most of the time. If I have, let's say I have Kenny Golladay and or Marvin Jones. Let's just say I picked two of the Lions or one of the Lions there in my drafts, and I'm in the 15th round and I need a quarterback and Matt Stafford's laying around. I might pick Matt Stafford over, let's say, Drew Lock, who I have no Broncos of just to have that stack. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's like a deterrent of me picking one guy over another one, but it's not necessarily something that I go into a draft looking for to do, but I'm not opposed to doing it. Over the years, man, I used to love having – it was expensive, but it worked out. I used to love having Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson. I had Tom Brady and Randy Moss the year that they cruised. I had Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson back in the day. Most recently, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones is a great stack, right? So we're going to go through some of these guys now who I like to have and I think are more reasonable to have. Big Ben and AB was a great stack for years, obviously. So let's run through it, man. Let's just start here. We're going to go through the NFC first and then the AFC. We're going to go through each division. I'll rally off the teams to let people, get familiar with the four teams per position that we're talking about, just in case you are unfamiliar with the each team in each division. And then Lukas and I are each going to pick a team in that division and break down kind of why we like that particular stack. So, Lukas, per usual, I'll let you go first in each one of these. Let me break down the teams, and then you can pick up your team. So, in the AFC West, we have the Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers, the no longer St. Louis Rams, and the Seattle Seahawks. Who of those four teams do you prefer to have the stack of quarterback plus whomever?
I went with the Rams here. So, obviously, Jared Goff. And I think obviously it's Robert Woods. I don't mind Cooper Kupp, but it's mainly Robert Woods, and I'm actually going to go Gerald Everett here. Obviously Goff, if you listened to yesterday's video, I basically stated that this team was third in total pass attempts per game, which obviously third in total pass attempts on the whole season. I don't think that's going to change. They front-loaded a lot of their contracts and it bit them in the butt, and they lost Clay Matthews, their leading sort of middle tier of that defense. Obviously, they still have Ramsey, but just throw to the other side of the field. Just let Ramsey lock down whoever. And they lost Dante Fowler, I believe, their edge rusher. So the defense is kind of weak, which will lead to more negative game scripts, which will lead to more throwing for Jared Goff. Rookie running backs are not going to help the running situation at first will take more time for the Rams to hit that, so they will throw the ball. And I went Gerald Everett, or I guess I went Robert Woods because someone has to fill the Brandon Cooks role, and I don't think Tyler Higbee's filling that. And I'm pretty sure Cooper Kupp, the slot receiver, is not going to fill the downfield stretcher role. So I think Woods is in for a huge year. And I'm fading Tyler Higbee because this is kind of the whole Devontae Parker, Preston Williams thing. It's a situation where I'm not taking a single game split because that's super subjective and total bias if you pick one. That being said, Gerald Everett broke out when he was healthy, right? He was the guy to start. Tyler Higbee, I knew who he was, but I couldn't even tell you if he was playing at the time. Everett gets hurt, and then Higbee breaks out. Apparently, the games where Everett kept Higbee on the bench don't matter, I guess, according to current ADP or any analysis around Tyler Higbee or et cetera, et cetera. That being said, Higbee still did break out at an enormous level. So my thinking is, this is why I would rather take Everett, is why pay up for a guy that's equal as the guy behind him that actually is the starting tight end or was the starting tight end. So I'm just going to fade Higbee. I'm not taking the tight end 6 or 7 in hopes he's the starter. Normally if you take the tight end 6 or 7, he would be the starter. So I'm just going to fade that in general. And I think this team is going to kind of switch back to the 11 personnel we saw at the start of the season, which will not favor the tight ends.
I don't know why, but I'm really concerned for some reason. I love Tyler Higbee. He beasted out and was some of the most impressive tight end work we've seen in recent years. I love Tyler Higbee, but something in my gut is terrified to draft him in the early, kind of the 6th, 7th round, 8th round, because I'm worried that he's going to be this year's OJ Howard for some reason. The difference is OJ Howard got a new coach and got thrown to the curb, whereas Tyler Higbee obviously proved it to everybody that he can do it. So it's a little bit different, but I see a world where maybe Gerald Everett does come back, all 4 of those receptions. I think my boy Josh Reynolds might sneak into that Brandon Cooks role as well, potentially Von Jefferson too. So there's a lot of Cam Akers obviously is going to be a factor there for the Rams. So a little bit worried about Tyler Higbee at the draft cost. I think he'll be fine, but at the draft cost, I'm worried about him. So I think Everett's an interesting pick. One thing about Cooper Kupp, bro, have you seen this recent picture of Cooper Kupp working out, bro? He's like a taller Christian McCaffrey, yo. I'm
the good old workout hype when no defenders are on him. You'd love to see it.
Bro. Usually I don't bite. Okay. Last year we saw Christian McCaffrey in his cut off Carolina hoodie, and everyone's like, "Damn, bro, somebody photoshopped little CMC." And he comes out and just rolls for 2,000 yards. I'm telling you right now, bro, Cooper Kupp is ready to go. 2 years off that ACL. My man can be beasting. I'd be happy with either one of those receivers, but I'm with you, Eileen, Robert Woods as well. Okay, with the Rams, good breakdown there. I'm going to go with the Seahawks, and Russell Wilson's my dog. I've been saying for years on this podcast and longer before this podcast that if Russell Wilson was on pretty much 25 other NFL teams, he would be a top 3 quarterback every single season. He kind of already is, and they don't even let him throw the ball. He's absolutely fucking phenomenal. I'm really worried that they're just kind of wasting his career in Seattle, just not allowing him to be the best quarterback in the league. But that's another conversation. Russell Wilson and I would say DK Metcalf. I know you're on the Lockett train, so I'm going to throw them both in here. Russell Wilson Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, I think is a great stack this year. Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson have an incredible efficiency. I keep expecting to fade away, but it just frankly does not. Tyler Lockett made one of the best catches I've ever seen in the back of the end zone last year where he toe tapped, but he caught the ball 4 yards out of bounds, but he was inbounds with his toes. Yeah. It was absolutely phenomenal. Great catch there. And we saw what he did with Russell Wilson did with Doug Baldwin, who I never thought was that amazing, but Russell Wilson allowed him to be a top-end wide receiver for years. And DK Metcalf, I just think, takes that next step this year. He and A.J. Brown, I think, are just going to be absolute fucking animals moving forward, and I think it starts this year. He led the NFL last year in red zone attempts. I think he, catches up double-digit touchdowns this year. So DK is my dog. So I'm going to take Russ and DK. but you could take Russ and Lockett as well. Also, there's no tight end really right now that's that definite guy. There's about 4 dudes, but there's not that one guy, and I don't think any of those running backs are going to be that dump-off guy there. So for me, it's Russell Wilson, DK, and Lockett in the pass game there for the Seahawks. All right, NFC West. We broke down the Rams and the Seahawks. Let's move on to the NFC East. We have the Cowboys, the Eagles, the not-for-long Redskins, and the Giants. Who of those 4 teams are you picking in the NFC East?
Well, you went the Cowboys, and I'm not picking the Giants, guys. You have to turn to the draft guide. I did a pretty good study as to why none of them are a good pick, no matter where the ADP is. You might be wondering, how is that the case? Get the draft guide. It's a pretty good write-up on those. So I went with the Eagles.
Not Steven Sims?
Hey, that man's a beast. He looks like the Predator movies out there when he's just humongous in the slot. It's actually pretty cool. But it's still
he needs a quarterback. That's the problem.
He needs Kyle Allen in there to throw him the ball. So I went with the Eagles, and I guess Carson Wentz because, I've seen him going I'm taking Carson Wentz if he's past the QB 10, but I'm not taking him at the QB 7 if that's kind of my vibe on him. No Jalen Reagor, no Deshaun Jackson, none of the receivers. I'm strictly going the Wentz and Ertz pairing with possibly the Goddard handcuff late.
Do it.
This is primarily my pick because the lack of weapons in this division, you could say, because it's not like Ertz is a good pick because obviously he's a good pick, and I guess handcuff him and give him the consistent quarterback. So that's about all my analysis on that. Not a very good analysis. That's about all I got there.
I like that there. Real talk. You have to pick a Philadelphia receiver. Who is it?
Deshaun Jackson just for week 1. That's it.
That's a crazy ADP too. I mean, he's in the 15th round or something stupid right now.
Yeah, none of them because there's 9 million speedy burners.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jalen Reagor is probably the guy that I'm going to pick. I'm just going to wait on him until week 4. Everyone else will get hurt, and then he can beast out. I'm going to fade Eagles in general, except for maybe Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz. I've been saying it for months. I will continue to say it as long as it's a thing. If you draft Zach Ertz, reach for Dallas Goedert, period. I've been doing it for 2 years. It hasn't really mattered, but I'm telling you right now, if Zach Ertz goes down, Dallas Goedert is a top 5 tight end, and you can get him right now in the 12th, 15th round because he's a handcuff. So do that. All right, man, I am gonna go with the Cowboys. This is pretty easy here. Not much analysis again with some of these teams, but I would love to have Dak Prescott. You and I both have him as our QB3. I would like to reach for him in the 4th round. I'll take him all day after I get 2 quality running backs and receiver, vice versa. And my Cowboys weapon to pair up with him, if you've been listening to the podcast, is no surprise, but I'm going to go with Michael Gallup. It's not Amari Cooper. Definitely not Amari Cooper. And I love CeeDee Lamb, but not yet. I love CeeDee Lamb next year as this year's Michael Gallup. But this year, I think Michael Gallup will be the top Cowboys receiver. I said that on our Hot Takes episode last week. I truly believe that. I just think he passes up Amari Cooper. And I don't think Amari Cooper is going to be in Dallas next year. So I really think that Michael Gallup, who would have outpaced Amari Cooper in almost every single category last year if he didn't play 2 less games, will be that number 1. He'll play the number 2, which is even better for him because Amari Cooper is the one that's going to get doubled up. And then we'll have obviously the stacked boxes because of Zeke, and I think that's going to allow Michael Gallup to get down the field on the other side with Jarwin and Lamb clogging up the middle too. So I'd love me some Michael Gallup this year, who's still falling. He's in the 8th round right now of drafts, which is stupid. I'm picking Michael Gallup every time, and I would love to stack him with Dak Prescott. If you're going way deep, then you can throw a bone to my man Jarwin, who I do love, and I think he'll be fine. But again, there's so many mouths to feed. He's 6th in line for targets. I'll take Michael Gallup, who's number 2 in targets. I'm maybe even number 1, depending on how the season goes with Amari Cooper. So pretty fired up on Dak Prescott and Michael Gallup. All right, let's go to the NFC South. We have the Buccaneers, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints.
So I went with the Falcons here, and I'm pulling out my projections right now because it's looking nice for the Falcons. And people might call me crazy, but my evidence, I guess, or my reasoning is definitely there. So as of now, I'm sorry, pulling it over here. I have them projected for 722 passing plays and 388.9 rushing attempts. That's very on the high end of what we've seen in the past, but they threw the ball, I think, like 60 times the last 3 games last year. The defense is still not good. They're going to have to – I mean, I've been saying they're going to have to keep up if they want to compete in this division. So as of now, I have Matt Ryan ranked. I have him at 341 projected points, which would have been the QB2, which he literally was not this year but the past year. I have Gurley at 211, which is like a back end RB1, high end RB2. But the part that's really nice is I have Julio Jones at 310 and Calvin Ridley at 257.1. And it reflects about my rankings. I think that would put Julio on normal years, QB 3 to 4. Last year was kind of a down year, and Ridley right around the 9 to 12 range. So right where I have him. So I'm going – to be honest, I don't even know if this is like the Matt Ryan stack. This is more like to stack Julio and Ridley, but I guess obviously throwing Matt Ryan for the case of QB week, I just think it's going to be a gold mine. I mean, I didn't even mention Hayden Hurst. Todd Gurley is probably a good value if he stays healthy. Didn't even mention Russell Gage. Brian Hill's going to be one of my highest owned handcuffs. Or, I mean, Ito Smith. I don't know who the backup is. I'll probably be taking both, honestly, in the 15th, 16th round because of Todd Gurley's injury. So I think they're just a gold mine waiting to happen. They're a team that could be the best in every metric and be 3-13 when it's all said and done, just because of the division they play in. So I'm definitely targeting Falcons, which I hope you know by now that I'm targeting Falcons if you listen to the podcast.
Yep, I think that's a great call. I love my man Julio. Calvin's going to be just fine. I think Todd Gurley has a big bounce back, or not even a bounce back year. I just think he has a great year as well. And then Matt Ryan too. And that defense is still pretty shoddy. I'm going to go with Brady and the Buccaneers. I think it's going to be a lot of fun this year. I got Godwin and Evans as the stack. Obviously you can go with Gronkowski as well. I think if I had to make a stack, who would I go with? I think I would go with Godwin and Brady. I do think Evans is going to be just fine. I think he's unnecessarily falling in drafts. Saw him in the 4th round of a mock the other day. I mean, you're not going to be able to get both those guys, which I don't know you would want to anyway. But I'm going to pick Godwin over Evans just slightly, and then I'm going to go with Brady. The Gronk story is fun. I'm going to be excited to watch him on Sundays and catch a couple Gronk spikes over the year, but I'm not going to be drafting Gronkowski anywhere with kind of little upside there. So I'm going to go with Brady and Godwin as my stack in the NFC South. Not much to be seen here. Arians loves the slot. Brady loves the slot. I think Mike Evans is going to get another 1,000-yard season and maybe even does double-digit touchdowns, but I can see Godwin getting double-digit touchdowns as well and getting maybe closer to 1,500 yards and over 100 receptions, which in PPR leagues is just going to continually rack up. So I like that a lot. And Brady's going in the 10th-plus round right now with current ADP. I can actually check that out really quick. Let's see here. Tom Brady, actually he's going a little bit higher. He's going about the 8th round right now. So he's starting to climb a little bit. But I like Brady and I like Godwin. So that's my NFC South. So we're going with the Falcons and the Bucks in the NFC South. Let's go with the NFC North, and then we'll wrap that up and go over to the AFC side. On the in the NFC North, rather, we have the Packers, the Vikings, the Lions, and Bears.
Alrighty, I went with the Bears here. This is the Nick Foles, David Montgomery, Allen Robinson stack. I mean, Allen Robinson, he's a beast. Wide receiver 1 that nobody wants to rank there because of leaving it blank so someone can insert a reason because I don't know.
They're scared of the quarterback in the offense.
Yeah, they're scared of the quarterback in the offense even though he's a wide receiver 1 last year and when he had Blake Bortles. And, yeah, I don't know. People make fantasy really hard. Just take Allen Robinson. He's a good receiver. He literally bullies any corner thrown your way. He made fun of Darius Slay. I'm pretty sure that was him or maybe Adams like 2 weeks ago saying that Slay gave away his coverage every single time. That might have been Adams. I don't know. Either way, that just shows you they're a smart receiver if it's him or Adams. Dave Montgomery, I don't know. I mean, like, not a great pick, but he was still like the running back 20, I believe, last year. Terrible in every metric, and obviously that draw you off him, right? But they didn't replace him. I'm pretty sure his backup's Ryan Nall, and I think he's a fullback. Obviously Cohen, but they're not going to give Cohen 20 touches behind the line of scrimmage. So unless they don't bring in a backup, I'm all over Dave Montgomery. And then Nick Foles, we mentioned, that's more so the beginning schedule is pretty easy. That's more of a deeper league or a super flex sort of stack, though.
I like it. Yep, definitely a deeper stack, but I love me some A-Rob. I'm going to go with the Lions here, man. I just mentioned on the previous podcast I would love to have Matt Stafford, Kenny Golladay, of course, and my boy Marvin Jones that I've been taking in the 10th round of drafts for the last 5 years. I think he's got great value. He's been on pace for 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He is going to be just fine as long as he stays healthy. Kenny Golladay could take that step into the upper echelon top 5 wide receivers this year, and Matt Stafford was on pace to be a top 3 quarterback as well before he got hurt. So I love that value. And Marvin Jones and Matt Stafford, you could basically get in the 9th, 10th, 11th round. Kenny Golladay, obviously, you have to pay up for in the 2nd or 3rd. But getting Kenny Golladay and then grabbing Matt Stafford later on, I think would be a great weekly upside stack and also a nice floor there as well. All right, man, that is the NFC side. I'm going to take a quick pause and just remind people, if you have not gotten the draft guide yet, go to tckpod.com, grab yourself a draft guide, $5 for the draft guide, $5 for the in-season package, or $15 for both of them, plus some bonus features that you can see on the draft guide. Again, just $15 or $5 if that's even too much for you. You can just hit us up there, give us your email address, and let us know your name. We'll be in touch to get the payment and everything rolling to you, and we'll get that out and a draft guide ready to go as soon as possible. So we appreciate the support there. We've already got a handful of people with their mitts on it. We've got a lot of great contributors, so we appreciate that. I want to make sure that you're getting the draft guide to help you win your fantasy football leagues. So go do it now. Pause the podcast, tckpod.com. All right, welcome back. Thank you for going to draft and get yourself the draft guide. We're going to drop into the AFC side, man. Let's start with the AFC West. We've got the Chiefs, the Raiders, your Denver Broncos, and the Chargers. Which of those 4 teams is the offensive team that you want to stack up?
I went with the Chargers here, not the Broncos. There's been a lot of Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler buzz going around lately. And I know no one can tell me that Phillip Rivers was a good quarterback last year, so why is an accurate quarterback and Tyrod Taylor going to make that worse? I don't know. Like I said, people make this stuff way too hard. Go take Keenan Allen, who's consistently finished as a top 12 wide receiver, even though when I don't want him to, he seems to always do it. Austin Eckler, it's weird because what he showed us last year without Melvin Gordon, now he has all Melvin Gordon's vacated production, and his competition is a 7th-round running back and a 4th-round running back that I'm pretty sure 90% of football fans didn't know existed until he got drafted to the Chargers. I don't know where the confusion is or where the scared part of the game is. The team's a good team, probably one of the scariest secondaries in the league, mixed with 2 fantastic edge rushers, a capable quarterback that went to the playoffs 3 years ago. So, yeah, take the Chargers. I'm not necessarily saying stack Tyrod, but yet again, Superflex, a good stash. But this is more so an Eckler and Keenan Allen endorsement right here. And if you're listening to this, please delete your Instagram.
If you have not seen yet, Austin Eckler should have called out the Fantasy Football Council. You can go check that out on any of your on your platforms. All right, man. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. Pretty obvious. Patrick Mahomes, best pure quarterback in the league. Multiple stacks here. So you got Travis Kelce, obviously. You could also do Tyreek Hill and then CEH as well. You're not going to be able to get a bunch of those guys, but you could do a great stack. Nothing much to say there. I would love to have those 2 guys in the first 3 rounds. If I came out with 2 of those guys, I would be absolutely pumped. 4 Chiefs going in the first
That'd be crazy.
2 rounds, maybe 3 rounds. So pretty incredible there.
Let's get in. Would you actually want like all 4? Like if you could get all 4, would you actually do it?
Well, CEH would have to be my running back 1 then because.
Mm-hmm. But then you could snag like Montgomery or Mostert in round 5.
Shit. I mean, sure. How would that work? Tyreek in the 1st round, Mahomes in the 2nd round, CEH in the 3rd, maybe Travis Kelce in the 4th. That's not going to happen. I just don't think that you're not going to be able to, but in a vacuum, would I want to? I mean, one league, why not?
Yeah.
I had years ago, it was a different drafting strategy with ADP, but I ended up with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara. I drafted all of them on a team. Actually, it was the first year of the TCK pod, and I ended up winning it that year. So it worked out, but I ended up getting like Kamara was a top pick. Michael Thomas was like a 3rd or 4th round that year. Ingram was like a 6th, 7th round, and Drew Brees was like 10th. So it was way different. But if I could get all 4 of the Chiefs, yeah, sure, why not? I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think my ultimate stack would be – I think if I'm going to go onesies early, I don't think you can get better than Mahomes and Kelsey. So I think I would double up with those guys. I think I can get, Tyreek Hill somewhere else, and I can get CEH somewhere else, but I would go Mahomes and Kelsey. All right, let's go with the AFC East. We got the Patriots. We have the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills.
I mean, I went with the Patriots. We basically said gross to every single team while reading this off. Yes, this is an endorsement for Julian Edelman and the newly acquired Tom Brady heir, Cam Newton. You hyped up Cam Newton a little bit. I did too in the last episode, so make sure to go check that out. I mean, basically what it comes down to is I'll stop talking about Edelman until his ADP goes up. So target him everywhere. I guess we'll just kind of turn this into a little bit more of a Patriots talk because we didn't really get it digested enough. So I guess I'm confused where the whole N'Keal Harry rise of breakout came after they signed Cam Newton. Like, did people not watch Cam Newton last year when he couldn't even hit the wide receiver 5 yards off the line of scrimmage? And now N'Keal Harry's supposed to break out when he just came from Tom Brady? I don't know. It was so funny because we were recording, and then I looked on Twitter and it was like N'Keal Harry rocket ship emoji, and I was like, wait, please explain that correlation to me. It doesn't make any sense. So I guess Harry, the boy James White might single-handedly outcatch Julian Edelman. His ADP might reflect that by August, so he could be in a void, but I definitely think that's a possibility. But in reality, Edelman, Cam Newton's a perfect definition of a late-round QB that might finish top 5, and then play around with the running backs and N'Keal Harry. I think you can definitely find some value on this team.
Christian McCaffrey led the Panthers in receptions the last 2 years that Cam Newton was healthy. So fire up James White all day.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins, and this is a weird one. It's process of elimination in the AFC East. It has been in years for fantasy football and NFL football. I don't hate Josh Allen, but I don't believe in him yet, and Stephon Diggs and John Brown and Cole Beasley. I just don't see it as much. The Jets are a dumpster fire until Adam Gase is gone, so I'm not going to talk about them outside of my boy Frank Gore. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins. And Ryan Fitzpatrick as he is, he's going to chuck it as long as they allow him to. When he's done, Tua's going to come in and chuck it. I think it's going to be week 12. I wrote an article here you could find in the draft guide, and my prediction is that Tua, if he plays in 2020 at all, I think it's going to be in week 12. They have a bye in week 10, I believe. Week 11, they play the Jets. And then after that, they're going to play the Cincinnati Bengals, which, of course, is Joe Burrow. And the NFL is not going to allow that game to happen without Tua and Burrow trying to play each other. I just 2 top 5 picks. I think it's going to be great. So I think Tua gets a chance, and Fitzpatrick's going to be fine until then. My biggest thing is Preston Williams, who's one of my favorite, late round draft picks now. He was actually outpaced Devontae Parker last year in the 9 games that both of them played together up until week 9 when Preston Williams tore his ACL. He was out for the season. They were back-to-back in fantasy, wide receiver 36 and 37, and Devontae Parker was only 1.2 PPR fantasy points ahead of Preston Williams, and he was actually only 0.1 per game. So love that. Preston Williams was also ahead of Devontae Parker in targets, receptions, and receiving yards, with Devontae Parker having 4 touchdowns to Preston Williams 3. So Preston Williams is just as good as Devontae Parker. I think he's a beast. And last year we saw what Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki were able to do after Preston Williams went out. So the Dolphins, with Matt Breida and Jordan Howard to boot coming in, they have a sneaky good offense. And they also have a sneaky good defense. I don't think they win the division this year over the Bills, but I think they could be potentially second over the Patriots if Cam Newton doesn't pan out and Stidham's not the man. So I'm just going to take a flyer here on, Fitzmagic is my last pick of the draft if I need. This is more of a super flex conversation with these guys or a dynasty pick. But I love I'm going to pass on Devontae Parker in the 6th round every single draft. No, thank you. But I am going to pick Preston Williams in the 10th or 11th round every single pick, and I'll take a flyer on Mike Gesicki here and there as well in the 10th or 12th round too there. So Dolphins are my pick. Patriots are your pick for the AFC East. Two more, man. AFC South. We got the Texans, the Colts, the Titans, and the Jags.
I'm going with the Jaguars here. Obviously, Gardner Minshew is one of my guys. Probably the best late round, really late round, I guess you could say. He's probably the best QB2 you can have with Superflex, probably QB2, QB3, even QB2 I'm fine with. The schedule is easy. The path to negative game script is definitely there. And, I'm pairing him with DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault. I'm going to go Leonard Fournette because, really when it comes down to it, Fournette's ADP is going down in a good way in terms of the running back ADP. I know if you listened to yesterday, I talked about the overall concept of ADP and kind of how that can play into positional value. And I think Fournette's he's never going to go up because he's in the spot where are people actually going to take him over Gurley, James Conner, right? That's kind of what he falls into. So he can really only go down in ADP. And yes, he's not going to get 100 targets, but he also had, I'm pretty sure, 1 touchdown inside the 5-yard line, 2 inside the red zone. And he was probably top 10 in carries and all that. So that will go up. So I do I think the Minshew, Fournette, and Chark stack is definitely a good I would say upside play because I don't want to say there's a floor there because the Jaguars could easily go 0-16 this year. But I definitely think it's an upside stack for sure.
Yep. I totally agree. And them bringing in Jay Gruden, I think is going to be big as well. He likes to chuck it all over the yard. He just had rough teams in Washington there previously, but I do think that they have an option. Also, we got our boy Tyler Eifert, who we mentioned a couple weeks ago, that has a nice schedule at tight end, and he could hopefully get a late career surge for him as well. I'm going to go with the Texans here, man. It was kind of back and forth between the Titans and the Texans. I like the Titans. I think Tannehill's going to take a big step and fall up where he was last year. But outside of A.J. Brown, I just don't believe in Corey Davis. I love Jonnu Smith, but I want to see it for a full season, and we know that Derrick Henry doesn't catch the ball. And then on the other side, for the Colts, Rivers and T.Y., sure, but those guys I think are just not going to be as fun as everybody wants them to be. I love my boy Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal, but I don't know if that happens this year with Doyle as well. So I think there's a lot of run game in both Tennessee and Indianapolis, so I'm going to take away from that stack. I'm going to go with the Texans, who, if Bill Bryan doesn't completely fuck up, the Texans should still win 8 games just because Deshaun Watson is incredible, and that defense should be good enough, and that offense or that division I don't think is that great, so they should be okay. And that's the stack I want. The question is, who do I want? Which receiver do I want to stack with Deshaun Watson? I've gone back and forth here with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, and I think I want to go with Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is healthy outside of concussions. Will Fuller has the knee issues. I'm worried about that more so than Brandon Cooks. So both of them are very, very risky. But Brandon Cooks has had 1,000 yards every year. He's been healthy. I think he's going to be just fine this year. He gets another great offensive juggernaut team, and I think Deshaun Watson is going to be able to find him quite often. So I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson if I pick him in, the 5th round probably. And then Brandon Cooks is going pretty deep right now. So he's going after Will Fuller, which I like a lot. So that's a pretty good stack for me. All right, man, last one, AFC North. We've got your Browns. We've got the Bungles, the Steelers, and the Ravens.
I went with the Ravens, and this is the one I think is actually possible that I think I'll have a lot of, and it's a big one. The Lamar, Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, Hollywood, and Mark Andrews stack. But that being said, I know that I would be pumped if I had Lamar as my QB1. I'm growing on Andrews a little bit because I think that I read an article, Hidden Winks from Roto World, put out an article saying why Lamar could break the touchdown regression. It basically came down to because he's throwing the ball so close to the line of scrimmage because the offense is so good. They're running the ball to get up to the line of scrimmage, and then they run a lot of RPO play action type plays. So I know I touched on why maybe you should step back on Andrews, and that was because I kind of looked at the regression in terms of a whole 36 to 26 touchdowns or whatever. And I do have, as of now, my projections Lamar at 26 passing touchdowns, but I will be updating it. It's the first run through. So that being said, you can easily get Lamar in round 2 if you want. Andrews in round 3, Dobbins round 4, and Mark Ingram round 5, and Hollywood like 7. Like, I mean, that seems like, why would you even do that? But if you can get a safe running back in round 1, which you can probably get like a Zeke or a Barkley and get Lamar back in round 2, your tight end set, you have your wide receiver 2, then go like Edelman, Marvin Jones with your 2 running backs with Zeke. I mean, it sounds a little far-fetched, but I definitely think there's some strategy to it if you play it right.
I think you can end up getting Dobbins like the 8th round too. You don't have to reach that much. And honestly, I think maybe more realistic with the ADP, if you were to go crazy like that, like we just talked about the Chiefs, if you were to get that crazy, I think more realistically, you probably end up going Lamar in the 2nd. Honestly, you probably even get Andrews in like the 4th. So that allows you to get 2 other wide receivers or running backs there in the 1st and the 3rd. You'd probably get Hollywood in the 5th, maybe 6th round. And then you get Mark Ingram in the 5th or 6th round, and then you could probably get Dobbins there in the 8th. So I like it. I think that's, obviously aggressive. But if I were to go with the Ravens, I would love Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. I just think that is a stellar. And again, if you can actually find somebody like Wentz and Ertz or Jimmy G and Kittle, I just think having that tight end quarterback combo when it works out, I think is going to be great. And I'm hoping this year that Ryan Tannehill and Jonnu Smith grow into one of those combinations as well. I think that'd be great for both of them. So I like that pick on the Ravens. On the Steelers side is who I'm going to go with here. I was going to go with the Browns, but I talk about the Browns all the time. That one seems easy with, Baker and Odell or Landry or Kareem Hunt or Austin Hooper with David Njoku on his way out. The Bengals, Joe Burrow would be a lot of fun, but who are you going to go with? I mean, AJ Green, I love, but I'm not sure I trust enough. The rest of those guys, I just don't know that they're going to be the number one, Tyler Boyd and whatnot. So I'm going to go with the Steelers. It's Big Ben. It's Juju, of course. But I also like Deontay Johnson. I also like James Washington, even Eric Ebron, who I think could catch double-digit touchdowns just because. So I like Big Ben. Again, we just mentioned him last episode. You can grab him in the 11th round right now. Juju's in like the 4th round, which is ridiculous. I love that. Both of those ADPs right there are excellent. If you grab Deontay Johnson or James Washington even later, you end up getting those guys, everybody, and maybe like the sub 10 outside of Juju. So I like the Steelers pick right there with Big Ben and Juju Smith-Schuster. All right, man, that's the Ravens and the Steelers. So really quick to blaze through all these are the stacks that we are looking to grab in each division. So back in the NFC West, we're going to go with the Seahawks and the Rams. NFC East, Eagles and Cowboys. NFC South, the Falcons and the Buccaneers. NFC North, Lions and Bears. AFC side, AFC West, Chiefs and Chargers. AFC East, Patriots and Dolphins. AFC South, Texans and Jaguars, and then the AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens. Those are some quarterback combos with their team. Of course, there's plenty of other great mixes. I love me some Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, of course. There's many, many others throughout the league that I would love to have, but these are kind of the cream of the crop, if you will, for us. So that wraps up episode number 3 for Quarterback Week. Tomorrow we're going to have a mock draft. We're excited about that. And then we're going to jump into Running Back Week to get into the middle of July. Lukas, before we get out of here, man, please give everybody just a quick update on how the draft guide is coming along and how they can get their paws on it.
Yep, down below there is a link to the Google form, or you can go to tckpod.com. You basically fill out either one of the routes you take. I will get notified. I will get out to you to get the payment information, and then you will have access to the draft guide. It's a full year access, obviously, so you'll have access up until we release the draft guide next year. Once you're in, we're more than welcome to having any ideas or anything you might want. And then more information on the Listener League will be next week or 2 weeks, I believe.
Excellent. Right on. Make sure you go get that draft guide. Make sure to leave a subscribe right here to the YouTube channel and a rate and review, as long as your comment as well with your favorite quarterback stack with your wide receiver, tight end, or running back. Let us know who you will be drafting at current ADP or just talent in general. Favorite, maybe NFL style stack and also fantasy stack there for quarterback and another position. Make sure to leave a rate and review on the podcast wherever you're listening. We appreciate that, of course. Follow us on Instagram at fantasy football _TCK pod, and on Twitter at TCK _pod. Make sure to please go get a draft guide for yourself. $5 for the draft guide, $5 for the in-season package, $15 for both of those, and some extra shit. Lukas and I have been working tirelessly behind the scenes. We got all sorts of homies from other of your favorite accounts who have been working really hard with us as well to build up this draft guide. So we're going to help you win your fantasy football leagues, and we want to make sure that you are a part of it. So appreciate everyone that's already signed up. Thank you in advance to everybody else going to sign up right now. tckpod.com is where you can find that draft guide. That's been another episode of the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Episode 224 in the books, 225, a mock draft coming up next. For Lukas Kacer, I'm Sky Guasco, and we are out of here.